Hello, welcome to another episode of the Apple Report. I'm Dr. Karen Hiltz, and this week we're going to talk about federal impact. What is the federal impact on education as we move forward? Well, I think that's probably to be determined because I don't know that there's been any clear indicator on the direction of the current administration. But let me step back a minute and talk about what we've just mentioned, what we've talked about in the past, is that to me, education is not a federal responsibility. It's a state and local responsibility. The U.S. Constitution is silent on education, where in all state constitutions you will find an article on education that speaks to education. Now, I think that the U.S. Department of Education should be dissolved. I don't think there's a need to have a department because basically they're a data warehouse provider. They keep track of test scores, they keep track of survey information, they dole out policy or mandates, I'll say, with regards to what federal legislation there is that passes and gets signed. So they're basically the same function or similar or like function of the Census Bureau. And we don't need another data warehouse. We've got a bunch of them up there in Washington as it is. So the department basically doles out mandates, forces them on the state. Sometimes they're funded, sometimes they're not funded. If they're funded, they're usually funded for 1 to maybe 3 years. And then it becomes an issue for the state. If they are required to continue with a program or a mandate, how are they going to pay for it? How are they going to continue it? So it becomes a dilemma for the state on how they're going to pay for it. Now, I'm not sure that necessarily we have a return on investment, a good return on investment from the federal level as well. So those are a few reasons why I don't think that federal involvement in education is necessarily what our country should be bought into, I guess I'll say, because they really don't provide much when it comes to local school budget funding either. Usually they're only about maybe 8 to 10% of a local school board budget, which is minimal for the majority of boards. So there again, I'm not sure that federal needs to be involved in education from my perspective. However, going back to what is the current administration going to do? Well, one indicator that we've talked about a little bit is charter schools. During the campaign season, this administration talked about eliminating or minimizing the number of charter schools that are around the country. Now, this would have a detrimental and in some cases probably a devastating impact on families and children. There are many children who are in charter schools that are thriving and doing very well and are graduating in high numbers. When you look at a school district and the graduation rate is, 65, 75%, maybe 80%, compared to the majority of charter schools where it's 95 to 100% of graduation rates, that will definitely have a negative impact. So I don't think eliminating charter schools or minimizing charter schools. Now, who's pushing for charter schools to be eliminated or minimized? Well, you guessed it, unions. And unions don't like competition. They want to retain their monopoly on K-12 education, which does not help with the learning environment for children. It doesn't help with the curriculum of children. And to be perfectly honest, K-12 education doesn't need to be a petri dish for social programs. I believe that there is too much infiltration of social curriculum. Some will call it Marxism, some will call it socialism, some will call it social conditioning. But irregardless, there are many areas where parents are the responsibility with regards to how their child thinks about a particular religious philosophy. The parents are the ones who are responsible for ensuring that their children are fed and clothed and housed. And to me, local education has usurped some of that responsibility and authority. And medical conditions are a family issue. They're not a school division issue. And so therefore, there's a lot of controversy, I think. And these are some of the issues that I think the current administration should be looking at. Reducing regulation would be helpful, and giving that authority, that specific authority, back to the parents for the education and what their children learn within the school environment, the learning environment that they have their child in. So, again, given the current administration and where we go to from here from a federal perspective, the jury's out. It's still to be determined. We're not quite sure how this is going to play out. But one of the things I will say is that parents are the ultimate responsibility. They should be the ones guiding and directing their child's education, and they need to stay engaged and involved. So I hope that this was informative. I hope that you will like and share. I look forward to your feedback. And we will see you next week on another topic of education. Thank you.